Daniel Scalovi here, PokerListings.com. I want to remind you guys to make sure you're watching this in full screen, or else you won't be able to see all the details and stuff. That's the little square in the square in your video menu. Today we're going to talk about 3-betting and the different types of 3-bets. Basically, there's two different 3-bets. There's the value 3-bet, and then there's the light 3-bet. The value 3-bet's pretty simple. I mean, you think you have the best hand, so obviously you want to build the pot so that you win a bigger pot at Showdown. The light 3-bet is basically like a 3-bet bluff, and it's to balance your range in order to get paid off on your value 3-bets. I mean, if you were, the only time you 3-bet was if you re-raised with like aces and kings pre-flop, then you're going to be pretty easily red. Your opponents will pick up on that. So if you 3-bet more than aces and kings, then your opponent's going to be not clear on your 3-bet range, and they're going to be more willing to give you action on your 3-bets. First hand we're going to look at is obviously a value 3-bet. We got pocket aces, which is the nuts pre-flop, so obviously anything our opponent calls with is going to be, we're going to be gaining value from that, so it's always a good idea to 3-bet that before the flop. I mean, you don't have to 3-bet it every time because you can call to balance your pre-flop calling range, but I mean, this video is about 3-betting, so obviously we're going to be 3-betting. So yeah, under the gun raises to $6. We decide to 3-bet to 24, and he calls. I mean, this is the most basic of value 3-bets. We have the best hand, so we gain value by, we start stacking the pot with chips just so we can win him later. He checks, we bet, he raises, min raises, we shove, and he calls. Our aces are good, and they hold up. Next hand is another value 3-betting hand. When we decide to 3-bet for value, we have to think about our opponent's hands. Not his opening range, because that doesn't really matter as much, but his calling range, his 3-bet calling range. So if he calls 3-bets with hands that are worse than our hand, then our 3-bet is for value. And in this hand, under the gun limps, a tag raises to isolate the limper, and then we decide to 3-bet. Your regular tag, you can call with some pocket pairs pre-flop. You can call with ace queen, maybe ace jack suited, king queen, all hands like that. So his 3-bet calling range is worse than our hand, which would be jacks. So we 3-bet for value. Plus there's that fish in there, and his 3-bet calling range could be, I don't know, basically a lot wider. So it's a very easy value 3-bet. Unfortunately, he folds, and our tag folds, and we take the pot. I mean, obviously, your value 3-bets don't always work out, but the idea is you have to understand why you're 3-betting, and with jacks, you're 3-betting for value. Okay, and in this hand, looks like it's going to be another value 3-bet hand. Roddy Ben min raises, and then the Great One calls, and it's folded around us. So, I mean, we look at Roddy Ben's raising range, and I'm not quite too sure how he plays. He's got 200 BP, so we'll see how the hand plays out, but min raising is generally not that strong, and the Great One chooses to just call, and he doesn't have a full stack, so he's probably a fish, as most good players have auto rebuy turned on. So as it stands now, ace queen suited is clearly better than both of their ranges, but now if we look at their calling range, or their 3-bet calling range, it's actually probably pretty wide. I mean, he raised a small amount, so we can't just raise like 30 and expect them to call with worse. So we can only raise up to like 10 BB or 12 BB or something like that would be our like max 3-bet raise size. And that's still a small raise comparative to stacks. So we can definitely assume they're going to be calling with worse hands, and the Great One especially because he's a fish. So let's talk a little bit about raise sizing or 3-bet sizing. Generally, when you 3-bet, if you're in position, you want to go like 3 times their raise. Now, if you're out of position, you want to add an extra multiple of that. So like if your standard's 3 times, you can go 4 times from out of position to make up for some of that disadvantage you have by playing that hand out of position. And also, you want to add another multiple for each caller pre-flop. So if there's a raise and a caller, you want to add one multiple for being out of position and another one for the extra caller. So we might want to go 4 or 5x. So in this case, that's probably like $20 or $22 would probably be my default 3-bet size. However, I go 14, which is really, really bad. And you'll see as I play this hand out why that comes back to haunt me, because they only have to call 10 more, and obviously they're both going to call. And the flop comes all blanks, which is not a good flop for me, especially with 2 callers behind me and I'm out of position. So a lot of problems that newish players get in when they start 3-betting for value and 3-betting light and so on and so forth is they try and win every single 3-bet pot, which isn't a good strategy, because you're just not going to win some of them. And this is a flop that we're probably not going to win unless it gets checked down and we hit something or whatever. But as it stands now, we can't continuation bet because their 3-bet calling range contain a lot of pocket pairs. And pocket pairs aren't going to fold on a 6-6 deuce board because they're just not going to believe you. So we can just check and, kind of give up on the hand. He bets like something stupid, so Roddy Band's not very good either. He bets a quarter pot, and then the great one calls, and we're getting 6.5 to 1, so hey, we peel too, why not? And we check again. Roddy Band min bet, so obviously he's not good. And the great one raises, and we fold. Now, a lot of this could have been avoided if we had 3-bet a more reasonable amount pre-flop, so we kind of get ourselves into a sticky spot. But the main thing we're talking about with this hand is 3-bet sizing. And when you're out of position, you want to add an extra multiple, and for every other caller, you want to add another one. This last hand is actually going to be a light 3-bet, because if we're 3-betting 10-9 suited, it's not going to be for value because every time we're called, our opponent is going to have the better hand. So like the idea behind light 3-betting is you want to balance your 3-betting range. I mean, think of it this way. If you only re-raised before the flop with aces, kings, or queens, then your opponents are going to pick up on that. They're going to be like, oh, every time he re-raises, he's got aces, kings, or queens. And every time you raise, they're just going to fold. So you become very exploitable and very easily read, and you'll just never get action on your big hands. So by re-raising with like light with less than premium hands as a bluff, your opponents, you're never going to be quite too sure what you hold when you 3-bet. So they cannot just fold their king queen because they know you have aces or whatever. Now they're not going to be quite too sure if you have aces, kings, or 7-8 suited or jack-9 suited or something like that. Which hands you choose to 3-bet light with, though, it's a little bit up for discussion. I mean, obviously, you don't want to 3-bet total trash, although some people think you can do it every so often just because if you 3-bet total trash, you're taking a hand that has 0 value, and you're using the bluff value to gain some value into that hand, and that is understandable. However, you have to be pretty sure that your opponent's gonna fold to 3-bet. So you don't want to 3-bet 7-3 offsuit against a guy who calls 3-bets like 75% of the time. You want to have a hand that like can hit a flop, so like 10-9 suited or something like that. If you 3-bet and you get called, you can still flop a straight or 2-pair or a flush or whatever, right? So you do still have some equity in the pot with 10-9 suited. But hands you don't want to really 3-bet light with are like hands like ace-10 offsuit or something, or ace-jack offsuit against a button raise, because those hands have too much value actually seeing a flop and playing it out because you're going to be ahead of their raising range than to just turn it into a bluff. It's the same concept as you don't want to raise like pocket 10s on a jack high board and like because you have showdown value. Your hand has value. You don't want to turn it into a bluff. Now, what I mean by you don't want to turn a made hand into a bluff is, let's look at an example. Say someone raises, a tag raises on the button, and you have ace-jack offsuit in the big blind. Now, a tag's going to be raising the button very, very wide. He's going to have a lot of hands. And your ace-jack offsuit is actually better than his button raising range, right? However, if you choose to 3-bet, his calling range is going to dominate you. So when he calls your 3-bets, he's going to have hands that are better than yours. So basically, you're getting him to fold out all his worst hands, and you're allowing him to only proceed with his good hands. So you're turning your made hand into a bluff. Now, let's say for the sake of the example, that tag on the button calls every single time you 3-bet. Like every time he raises the button, he's going to call 100% of the time you 3-bet. Then you're no longer 3-betting ace-jack offsuit light. In that case, you're 3-betting ace-jack offsuit for value because your hand ace-jack is better than his 3-bet calling range. Now, onto this hand. This is just your regular 3-bet light hand. But a tag on the button raises, and we know he's raising a lot of hands, so a lot of those hands aren't going to be able to call 3-bets. So we re-steal the pot from him, and he folds, which is an okay result. We re-raise because he's raising so wide on the button, he's just going to be folding to re-raises a lot of the time. So basically, it's like free money, right? But also, we're building pre-flop image, like we're balancing our re-raising range, our 3-betting range. Now, if we start 3-betting all the time, then he's going to start playing back at us, and maybe eventually, once we 3-bet, we'll have kings, and he'll be like, oh, I'm sick of this guy re-raising me every time, and he'll shove like pocket deuces, and you'll snap with kings, and then like laugh. So like that's another great thing that 3-betting accomplishes. It frustrates your opponents. A lot of people adjust very poorly to when you increase your aggression by 3-betting their openings all the time. Some players tighten up and they just won't raise against you, and others will eventually spaz out and shove some stupid hand against you. This is actually the only 3-bet light hand I have for this video, just because I don't need to show you every different way you can 3-bet. Just the idea is you want to pick an aggressive opponent, one that you're going to be playing with a lot, that he's going to pick up on you, that you don't only 3-bet aces and kings. An aggressive opponent, so he's going to be opening wide, and he's going to be very likely to fold to your 3-bets. And other than that, just keep in mind that if you're not 3-betting light, then you have to be 3-betting for value. And what makes it a 3-bet value bet is that your hand is better than their calling range. So if they call a lot of 3-bets, then your 3-bet value range is going to be wider than if they only call 3-bets with pocket aces, right? That's pretty much all there is to it. Just think about it when you're 3-betting. Am I 3-betting late, or am I 3-betting for value? And if you're 3-betting for value, think about what kind of worse hands he can call with. If you do that, I mean, the dollars are just going to be pouring in. You're going to be stacking them like up to your roof and stuff. And you'll be thanking me, and I'll be like, oh, I did nothing. It's okay. It's okay. It's the least I could do. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll catch you next week or the week after that with my next video. See you guys.